Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shannon Show. Happy Valentine's Day, you guys. For my sweet treat today, I have chocolate in my room, but for right now, in context of this video and time frame, I am having a slice of Dutch apple bread, which I usually like making around Thanksgiving and Christmas time, because usually I have some spare Granny Smith apples that I can use for the Dutch apple bread, and then I also have some citrus blondies. So my sweet treat for today, I'm letting it warm up to room temperature because I don't want to heat it up. But that is my Valentine's Day treat for myself. And as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, we are doing another bookshelf scavenger hunt specifically for Valentine's Day. Now, I have come up with all of these prompts myself. If you want to do this, feel free to comment down below, make your own video, make your own post. I'd love to know what your answers are. Like you saw in the disclaimers before this video officially started, this is not my usual posting schedule. I decided to do a full month of posting videos just to see what day of the week works best, and this is where we're at. If it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If it doesn't go somewhere, it doesn't go somewhere. And the plan is that once February 28th wraps up and we get to March 1st, then my normal posting schedule will resume, and that is usually on Fridays at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. Now, I mentioned this in an earlier video. I haven't mentioned this in all of the videos, but I know I mentioned it in at least one, where if I figure out that a certain day is working better for posting, I will shift to that one. Sorry, I was about to come back and then I realized I had to cough. But I will shift over to that day if there's a better day that works around noon. I was thinking about messing around with the time as well, but right now I'm just focusing on the day, and then I'll figure out timing. But with all of that said, we're going to get into this bookshelf scavenger hunt Valentine's Day edition for this year. And I know I just did one, I think it was on Thursday. It was on the 11th. Let me double check when that is. Oh, Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday. I did one Wednesday, just a general one. So go check that one out. It'll be linked down below in the description. Sorry, I had to step away again. But the previous video I did, the previous bookshelf scavenger hunt I did, is linked down below in the description. And I also have the playlist linked down below in the description as well. As of right now, there's only 2 videos in the playlist, but it's linked down below in the description anyway, just to have access for it. It's only the previous one I did on Wednesday, and then this video up in that playlist. But to get into the rules, to finally get into this video, so it's the same. I haven't added anything between Wednesday's video and today, but basically I can't prepare my answers beforehand, so I have to do it in the video. I have to do it during the video. 2, I have to use what's on my physical bookshelf. 3, audiobooks and ebooks can be honorable mentions, but I can't use them as my official answers. I have to focus on what's on my physical shelf. I'm kind of breezing through these since I mentioned it on Wednesday, so I went into more detail about the rules, and if you haven't seen Wednesday's video, it's down below in the description, like I said, but I'm not going into detail about the rules. But okay, I can have, rule number 4 is that I can have 2 to 3 answers per prompt, but I can have no more than 3. And then the 5th rule is that I cannot repeat an answer. I cannot repeat a book unless absolutely necessary. So an example I gave last time was, let's say my answer for the first prompt is The Hobbit. And let's say in the 5th prompt, I have to use like The Hobbit again. Like there's no other book that I can use other than The Hobbit. Then that's a situation where I can reuse it. But since I've already used it, but that would be a situation where it's like, okay, I can't think of anything else other than The Hobbit. I think that was the example I gave last time. Anyway, and then last but not least, the sixth rule is that if I have 2 to 3 answers for a prompt, then the 2nd and 3rd book can be used in other prompts, but no more than once per book. So let's say, kind of giving the same example. So let's say for the first prompt, my answers are The Hobbit, The Apothecary Diaries, and Fruits Basket. Let's say those are my 3 answers for the first prompt. And my official answer for that, let's say I mentioned 3 books for the first prompt. Hobbit, Apothecary Diaries, and Fruits Basket. Let's say my official answer is The Apothecary Diaries. I can use, because sometimes I'll mention 3 books in a row, like I realized I did this last video, like I'll mention 3 books in a row, but like, or I mentioned 2 books, but the 2nd book was like my official answer. So, in this case, using the example, like I said, The Hobbit, Apothecary Diaries, and Fruits Basket. Apothecary Diaries is my official answer. I can use The Hobbit once more, and then I can use Fruits Basket once more, but I can't use them more than one other time. So there's that. That's what it is. And like with the video on Wednesday, I will have these books mentioned in the prompts, but I will have to do it once I have the video recorded and finished. So there's that. But with all that said, let's get into these. Let's see, how many prompts do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I have 16 prompts, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 bonus prompts. So you don't have to do the bonus prompts, the bonus rounds as I call them, but you can do them if you want to. It just gives you more to do or other options if, let's say there's a prompt you can't think of an answer for. Sorry, I'm cracking my knuckles. Let's say one of the prompts you can't think of an answer for, or I can't think of an answer for, or don't have an answer for, then I have one of the bonus rounds to kind of fill out if I want. So the first prompt is a book with your ideal real life or ideal date, real life destination. Let me rephrase this 1 second. Okay, so rephrased, I also rephrased the second prompt, but rephrased, the first prompt is a book with your ideal real life date destination. Oof. Okay, so the first book, the answer I'm going to go with this is Almost There by Ferrero Rocher. I would love to have a date in New Orleans, in Louisiana, like, not just because of Princess and the Frog, but like, that is part of the reason. But I honestly I would love to visit Louisiana and New Orleans, especially during Mardi Gras. Like, that would be an ideal real life destination. Also, sorry I keep pausing. But I was thinking also Scotland, I have a few books based on Scotland, which is why I didn't choose, not based on Scotland, but that take place in Scotland. So that's why I didn't do that. And then the same thing with like Paris, France. Again, I have a few books centered in Paris, France, so it's like, you can't choose just one. But the next prompt is a book with your ideal fictional date destination. So for me, I'm gonna kind of I'm going to kind of go with the obvious. I say obvious just because I was just talking about it, but The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this one, I should have given a description. 1 second, we're gonna pause on The Hobbit. So, I think part of it is because I'm probably talking about the same books in this video like I did in the bookshelf scavenger hunt, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. With the Disney Twisted Tales, you do not need to know more than the what if question. So this is, what if Tiana had made a deal that changed everything? What if she made a deal with Dr. Facilier? All you need to know. And then ideal fictional date destination, The Shire and The Hobbit. And in this one, you're following Bilbo Baggins. He joins a company of 13 dwarves and a wizard to help reclaim the dwarves' homeland of Erebor, the Lonely Mountain. And again, if you don't know much about this story, like, you don't have to like it, you don't have to know a whole lot about it, but it's like, if you don't know the basics, have you been living under a rock? Mountain. Anyway, I chuckled at that. That was not intentional. So, ideal date destination, the Shire. There's also like Mirkwood to think about, and a lot of other places in Middle-earth would be great date destinations. So there's that one. The next prompt is a FMC or MMC, so female main character or male main character or other gendered male main character you'd like to go on a Galentine's / Pal-entine's date with. Now, oh boy. Now, I included Pal-entines in there just to kind of have more of a gender neutral option or gender neutral version of Galentine's. Like, I couldn't find an official one that was like male centered, but Pal-entine's is sort of gender neutral, sort of. So, Galentine's, Pal-entine's, a main character you'd like to go on a Galentine's Pal-entine's date with. And this is kind of like if you're thinking like platonic dates. I go on platonic dates with my friends all the time. So, let's see. Okay, I think. I'm looking. 1 second. I'm gonna go with Lily. I was kind of fluttering through a few options. I'm gonna go with Lily for right now in the moment of this book tag. I'm gonna go with Lily from For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn. And in this one, to give the description, excuse me, sorry. They told her to go to hell. She went, but on her own terms. Lily isn't exactly thrilled with her arrival in the afterlife, but what awaits her there is more fantastical than she ever could have imagined. Deities stand in line at the coffee shop, fae flit between realms, souls find ways to make death a beginning. As she explores the many corners of a new home, Lily finds herself surprisingly drawn to a place most people would avoid at all costs. Hell. Armed with years of experience of customer service, words are hard today, of customer service experience, where am I? In pent-up sarcasm, Lily carves out a job for herself amongst hell's demons, directing souls to their rightful circles with more than a hint of sass. So that's basically the gist of the story. You can read more of the synopsis. Thankfully, this is one synopsis that does not give too much away. And honestly, I love this book. I wish I could read this for the first time. So that's For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn. And again, I would go on a Galentine's date with Lily. And probably Soraya too. Even though Soraya she's more of a important side character. But I would go on a Galentine's date with Soraya. Probably Persephone as well. So, anyway, there's that. The next prompt is a book with your favorite couple. Okay. Thankfully, okay, I swear I didn't have this planned, but when I was typing this out, there was one book that I immediately thought of for this. So it's like, I can't not do this. Heaven Official's Blessing by Mojiang Tongju. And in this, you follow Jilian. Born the crown prince of a prosperous kingdom, Jilian was renowned for his beauty, strength, and purity. His years of dedicated study and noble deeds allow him to ascend to godhood, but those who rise may also fall, and fall he does. Cast from the heavens and banished to the world below. 800 years after his mortal life, Jilian has ascended to godhood for a third time, angering most of the gods in the process. So again, you can read more of the description if you want. Sorry, I keep having to step away. So, I can't wait to get the full series in this style, because honestly, beautiful. I do have the paperbacks, and the paperbacks are going to be my main reading copies for this. I am falling a little bit into the bookish aesthetic and the I'm falling into a little bit of the bookish consumerism culture here. So like I said in one of my videos recently, like, we're all subject to it. Like, this is definitely something I'm fallen subject to. So yeah, Julien and Hua Chang, chef's kiss. I've talked about it before, but their dynamic is so freaking healthy. I have my reading vlog for this coming out the first 2 weeks of March. So right now I scheduled them out. It's scheduled for March 6th and March 13th. Depending on how this month goes, I might reschedule it. We'll see. But right now it's set for the 6th and the 13th of March. So it's in part 1 and part 2. But they're a dynamic, Hua Chang and Julien. Like, I love it so much. It's so freaking healthy. We need more of it. Especially in the romance genre. Like, I love a bit of dark romance. I love a good bit of dark romance. If anything, I prefer dark romance because most of the dynamics in that are slightly more healthy. It might be a little bit toxic at times, but it is, relatively speaking, slightly more healthy than a lot of the YA romance, in my opinion. Because part of that is just because I have a hard time tolerating YA romance, because I'm like, I just want the characters to talk it out. And I hate a lot of the romance tropes if they're not done really well. So it's like their relationship, Julien and Hua Chang, sorry, slight spoilers. Their relationship is so freaking healthy. They talk it out. And part of it is that they do have hundreds of years of lived experience. But it's like, even with like new adult and adult books, it's like, just talk it out, you know, which they do. So Hua Chang and Julien, 100% chef's kiss. I love them. The next prompt is a book with a couple that should have ended up together. Now, this one will be slight spoilers, so just be aware. Here it is. Again, this is another situation where I sort of had it prepped, but there's no other book that I can think of. It's just because when I created this prompt, again, it was a situation where this was the first book and the main book that came to mind. It is The Paris Orphan by Natasha Lester. And honestly, like, if you know, you know. I don't want to spoil too much, but I needed them to end up together. And they should have ended up together. There should have been a way for them to end up together, which I was super bummed about. It was a very bittersweet ending, and I feel like there should have been something that was worked out, but yeah. I don't know if I can read The Paris Orphan again, but in this, let's see, I don't want to forget to give you the description. New York City / Paris, 1942. When American model Jessica May arrives in Europe to cover the war as a photojournalist for Vogue, most of the soldiers are determined to make her life as difficult as possible. But 3 friendships change that. And then France, 2005. So I didn't read that full part of the description just because it's a lot. And I think I talked about this one in the last fictional Scavenger hunt. Anyway, France, 2005. 60 years after World War II, Darcy Holworth arrives at a beautiful chateau to curate a collection of famous wartime photos by a reclusive artist. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, but Darcy has no idea that this shot will uncover decades of secrets that will change everything she thought she knew about her mother, Victorine, and alter Darcy's life forever. So this is another one where I wish I could read it for the first time, just because it's like, I would love to reread this, but I don't know if I can. So there's that book. And then the next prompt is, where is it? A couple that should not have ended up together. That shouldn't have ended up together. Okay. Oh, there's another book I could have done for couples that should have ended up together. One second. Okay, so I feel like I should have had one for this, but I don't. At least nothing that's coming to mind immediately, just because like most of the romance books that I have and that I've read even if I haven't like loved the couple, I've been okay with it, and it's like made sense. So, and that would be like my basis for judging it, like if it either doesn't make sense, or if I wasn't okay with it, or I feel like they should have ended up with someone else. I can't think of anything book-wise where that was the case. So I'm going to move on to the next prompt. So, a book with an amazing platonic friendship. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, here. So, Magic Knight Rares. I'm just showing volume 1, but I think this was like a really great example, kind of like in the same vein as Merida, where there are potential love interests for the character, but she doesn't. Ooh, this is spoilery for part 2. Where there are potential love interests, but she doesn't end up with any of them. Let me actually show the volume of the character specifically. For me, it would be Umi, especially with Clef and then Ascot. And personally, I really ship her with both of them. I do kind of lean more towards Ascot, but it is kind of in that same vein where like she didn't need to end up in a relationship. Not that any of the girls needed to end up in a relationship to have their character arc or lives fulfilled, you know? But like, I feel like she was like a really great example where it's like, yes, for Hikaru and for Fu, ending up in a relationship did help them feel more fulfilled, but that wasn't why they ended up in a relationship. It was because they wanted to be in one, and Umi just wasn't interested in one. And I think her friendships with Ascot and Clef really kind of showed to that like Ascot was definitely interested in her, but he respected her enough that like he wasn't going to try to push it. And Clef, there wasn't a whole lot of like interest there, but like I definitely kind of ship it. There wasn't a whole lot of interest on either of their parts, Umi's or Clef's, but like I did kind of ship it. But again, it's like that respect on both sides, and respect on both sides for Umi and Ascot as well. But yeah, great platonic friendships in this between men and women, and I think we need more of that between girls and boys that aren't just sexually charged, you know, and I think we need more of that. So the next prompt is a book with an example of your ideal partner and why. Shit, I did 2 of the books that I thought for this prompt, which I could repeat, but I am actually going to do I'm going to do this one, The Remarried Empress by Alpha Tart, art by Simpool, adapted by Heer Lee, and original story by Alpha Tart. And in this, you're following Empress Navier, and basically like her and her husband former husband, the Emperor Chauvesio, they seemed like the perfect match. And then all of a sudden he meets a girl in the woods, which is so fucking classic, and I hate him. He's not the one I'm talking about. He meets a girl in the wood, which is like so fucking classic. And like he falls head over heels, and it's like, fuck you. And he announces in front of a lot of people, like, I want a divorce. And like a lot of people kind of saw it coming. She kind of saw it coming. Navier kind of saw it coming as well. And she says, I will grant you a divorce if I'm allowed to remarry a man of my choosing. And who she ends up with, I love him so much. Henry, I love him so much. Like him, like, yes, I need that kind of a guy in my life, if it's a guy. So the next prompt is a book where the romance could have been written better. Now, I am doing a little bit of a cop-out with this one because I used to have it on my bookshelf, but I don't anymore, and I've talked about it before. It's Raising the Horseman by Serena Valentino, and I have hated on this book a lot on my channel, and the only reason why I do keep talking about it is because I do think there's the potential for someone else enjoying it more than I did. But my main gripe with it, like I've talked about on my channel, is that One moment. My main gripe with it was that it was too beat for beat like the animated story, like the animated short from Disney of The Headless Horseman. And I love that so much. Like Bing Crosby narrating that, like I could listen to that day in and day out. And I love that short so much. And it felt too much beat for beat like the animated short from Disney, like I said, which wouldn't have been a huge deal if it had just been the modern plotline, the modern for the story plotline, which was, I think, 1800s maybe ish. But the thing is with this book is that it has the original plotline, so the original story from the animated short, and then it has the plot 200 years later. So it has a dual timeline. And it was just so beat for beat for beat for beat for beat for beat for beat that it just got a little monotonous. And the romances, like, so you have the romance between Katrina and Brom, and not really Ichabod, but like sort of something there, but not really. And then you have Kat, and then her boyfriend, and then her ex-boyfriend, and then Isadora. And I was like, if the romances weren't beat for beat for beat for beat for beat for beat like each other, then it would have been fine. And it's just like, it was so obvious who the modern day Kat was going to end up with that it's just like, no, I didn't need to read this. And the thing is, part of it was on me because I had my expectations really high for it because of how much I love the animated short. But part of it is on the book, in my opinion, as well. In my opinion, just because of how it was played out and how it was written out. And it didn't need to be, at the very least, it didn't need to be dual timeline. I love a good dual timeline book. This one did not need to be that because the storylines, like I said, were exactly the same. Both of the timelines were exactly the same, basically, except for name changes and some gender changes. So there's that. The next prompt is, where am I? Ideal partner, could have been better. A dark romance book you love. A dark romance book I love. I think there's only really one dark romance I have on my shelf, which is fine. Or I have like 6. Which one? Okay, I think I'm gonna go with this one because this one is kind of the darkest of them. It's gonna be Crossed by Emily McIntyre. I do think this is one of the stronger ones, and along with Hexed as well, books 5 and 6, and the Never After novel series. You do not have to read this in order. You do not have to read the previous ones to read this. But in this, to give you the description, he is righteous, he is righteousness, she is sin. Father Cade Frederick is a holy man, brought up in the streets of Paris. He has dedicated his life to the church, but there's a monster that lingers just beneath the surface, a sickness, one that bleeds darkness and feeds on the damned. When he's tasked to become a priest in Festival, Vermont, a town both beautiful in architecture and riddled with despair, his sickness sings, demanding that he rid the place of evil. Maya Paquette is Festival's beautiful mystery. She spent her days caring for her younger brother and her nights transforming into Esmeralda, dancing for greedy eyes and shameless lips. Oh, where am I? Although she longs for love, she shies away from companionship, afraid of being abandoned again. When Father Cade lays eyes on Amaya, he finds himself ensnared, convinced she's using witchcraft to lure him to her. He can't eat, can't breathe, can't think unless it's of her. And temptation is a devastating mistress. She sees the weakness, so he decides he'll be her demise, even if it means killing the only woman he might love. So this one, I feel like a lot of Emily, the Never After novels, I feel are pretty good examples of dark romance. Are they the best examples in my opinion? Like the first four, like, are they the best examples? No. Hooked, Scarred, Wretched, and Twisted. They are pretty good on their own as examples of dark romance. They're not the best in my opinion, but they are pretty solid examples of dark romance, and I would recommend it to someone who's trying to get into dark romance. This one, Crossed and Hexed. I'm not mentioning Hexed too much here, but just because I'm trying to stick to the one book per prompt. But these ones are slightly stronger examples, Crossed and Hexed, but I feel like Crossed is a pretty good example because of the religious trauma that kind of ties into everything. So there's this. And plus too, with like how dark Hunchback of Notre Dame was, like that's a pretty solid book to try to base a dark romance book off of. The next prompt is a light romance book you love. Light romance. Oh boy, okay. The thing is with me, part of my issue with this is that romance is not my main genre. If you're talking about romance as its own genre, it is not my main genre that I read from. A lot of my manga tend to be more romance leaning, and I do have a lot of books that have romance as a subgenre, but it is not my main genre. So it's like, there are some books where I definitely could not tell you if it's a light romance or not, and then I have some series that are I'm not that far in, so I couldn't like say. Yeah, the thing is I can think of one, but I've only read the first 2 volumes, so I can't really say. So I think I'm gonna skip this round. And again, like I think I said this before, I tend to prefer dark romance a little bit better because of the dynamics. And because there is a slightly healthier, at least, dynamic between the two of them, communication-wise and boundary respecting-wise. So to move on, the next prompt is a book you wish more romances were like. I'm gonna go with this one. Okay. The Three Lives of Alex St. Pierre by Natasha Lester. And in this, you're following Alex St. Pierre, an unforgettable name for an unforgettable woman. She grew up surrounded by Hollywood glamour, but as an orphan never felt like she truly belonged. In 1943, with World War II raging and men headed overseas to fight, she lands a publicity job to recruit women into the workforce. Her skills, persuasion, daring, quick under pressure, catch the attention of the U.S. government, and she finds herself with an even bigger assignment, being sent to Switzerland as a spy. Soon Alex is on the precipice of something big, very big. But how far can she go? But how far can she trust her German informant? After an Allied victory that cost her way too much, Alex moves to Paris, ready to immerse herself in a new position as director of publicity for the yet-to-be-launched House of Dior. In the glamorous halls of the French fashion house, she can nearly forget everything she lost and the dangerous secret she carries. But when a figure from the war reappears and threatens to destroy her future, Alex realizes that only she can right the wrongs of the past and finally find justice. So, I honestly wish we had more. I guess this could kind of be light romance-ish. It does have darker themes, but I guess this would be on the light romance side for the romance part of it, maybe. The romance between Alex and Anthony, I wish we had more romances like that, because at the end of the day, it's like healthy boundaries, healthy respect, healthy in general, respect of boundaries put in place, healthy communication, a little bit later on, but there is that relatively good dynamic between them, which, yes, we need more of. So the next prompt is a book with a healthy romance. I used the book that I was going to do for this. And I used another book I could have done. Healthy romance. Let's see. What can I use? Now, I have not actually, what I'm going to use, I have not actually gotten, you can kind of see, I've not actually gotten that far in the story, but I've got myself spoiled for it. And honestly, like, sometimes it isn't the healthiest, but they do try, you know, from what I can tell, and from what is available. I'm just turning my ring light off since it's dying. But the Apothecary Diaries, there is, even though it's not like, at least where I'm at, we're definitely not at the romance stage yet. But there is overall healthy communication. Excuse me, sorry. Overall healthy communication, respective boundaries, respect both ways. So this one, Momo and Gigi and the Apothecary Diaries. The next prompt is your favorite / preferred romance trope. I don't know how much I've talked about it on this channel, probably a bit, but I think I've talked about it a little bit recently. But I absolutely hate how a lot of these tropes are done in modern day books, which is the weirdest thing because it's like I kind of rag on romance a bit, on the romance genre. Mostly when I'm talking about it in person with my friends or like on a phone call or something, when I'm talking about it in real time with my friends. It's like I tend to kind of rag a bit, hate a bit on the romance genre because ideally I like romance. I grew up on so many romance movies. I like the idea of romance. But the way so many of the tropes are used, I absolutely hate. I hate the miscommunication trope, which is my answer for the next prompt. But I hate the miscommunication. I can't say it right now. I hate the miscommunication trope. I don't like the one bed trope because it's like, in my brain, I would be logical about it and be like, okay, one of us is sleeping on the floor and the other person is taking the bed. Which is like not the point. I know it's not the point of the trope, but like, there's the floor. There's probably like some sort of chair or something, or a couple chairs, or maybe even a couch in the hotel room or the cabin, you know. It's like, there's other options. It might not be another bed, but there are other options. I don't really like the one bed trope. I understand the necessity. I understand the workarounds with that trope. I don't like it. And then miscommunication, one bed, enemies to lovers. Most enemies to lovers, in my opinion, is actually rivals to lovers, because I think I've said it before, but 9 times out of 10 in enemies to lovers, it's usually, if we're talking about a heteronormative relationship, usually it's the girl hating the guy for a majority of the book, and then the guy pretending to hate the girl, but really he loved her the entire time. So it was like, that's not real enemies to lovers. And really, like, she doesn't really hate him. She's actually in love with him, and it was like love at first sight, but she's annoyed that she finds him handsome and loves him. So it's like she acts all annoyed and acts like she hates him. That's not actual enemies to lovers, you guys. That's maybe rivals to lovers. And even in a workplace scenario, that's not enemies to lovers. That's rivals to lovers. Unless they're actively trying to tear down the other person and remove them from whatever possible positions in that workplace, that's not enemies to lovers. If they're trying to get to the position before the other main character, before the love interest, that's rivals to lovers. If they're actively trying to get that person removed from that workforce, from that workplace, that's enemies to lovers. Enemies to lovers would also be like opposing kingdoms, but again, they have to hate each other. It cannot be a situation where it's like, oh, I loved you the whole time, but you really seem to not like me. No. Both sides have to have a mutual hatred for each other for at least 50% of the book. I would say maybe like 40% at the earliest, but at least 50% of the book. Anyway, back on track. Where am I? Favorite preferred romance trope. The thing is, with miscommunication, just to kind of talk about it a little bit more, with miscommunication, the only place I really accept it is in something I've watched, is in things that I've grown up on and watched. And my biggest example of that is White Christmas. That's the only place where I really accept miscommunication trope, because it's Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney. Favorite romance trope. I feel like this is more of like a micro trope, but But because I'm thinking of White Christmas, when you have Judy and Phil kind of scheming to get Betty and Bob together, and then they end up falling for each other in the process. I don't know what that's called. I don't know what that would be called, but it's that kind of a trope where it's like two characters are scheming to get another two characters together, and then two scheming characters fall in love. What's that called? Let me know down below in the comments, but that would probably be one of my preferred tropes. And I do like enemies to lovers. It's just 9 times out of 10, like I said, it's not enemies to lovers. So the next prompt is a book with your least favorite or preferred. Oh, I realized I said a book with. So I don't have a book with that trope that I mentioned for my preferred one. Oh, I have to sneeze. Okay, we're good. It's been really windy lately. I don't have a book with my least favorite or least preferred trope as well either. I don't have one for that either. So I don't have a book with my favorite or preferred romance trope. I do kind of have one that fits with my least favorite, least preferred romance trope, which is like the enemies to lovers. I don't know if this really qualifies as that or if it was marketed as an enemies to lovers, but Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This is definitely more rivals to lovers. Again, it fits under the dark romance trope genre. So in this, it's basically a dark retelling for The Lion King where Scar and I think it's Sorabi end up together. So that's what this one's about. Okay, and then the last prompt from the main set of prompts is a book where the romance / potential for romance will settle. I had a book for this one, and let me try to remember it. Okay, so I remembered the book that I was going to do for this, but I decided to do something else, and that is Fate Be Changed by Farrah Rochon. And this is a Disney twisted tale. Again, you don't need to know more than the what if question. It's what if the witch gave Merida a different spell, and the potential for romance, and like there definitely could have been a potential for more focus on the romance that happens. I don't want to like say too much, and this is definitely one you do not want to read the description for. Just go into it. But the potential to the romance in this was very subtle because it wasn't focusing so much on the people where the romance would have happened. It was focusing more on Merida. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil too much. And then I'm going to do the bonus prompts or the bonus rounds just because there were a couple that I didn't have an answer for or a book for. So the first bonus round is a book that got you into or back into the romance genre. The thing is the one that I can think of, I'm not going to officially do this one for this prompt, but I can think of The Paris Orphan, but that got me back into fiction and not necessarily romance per se. So I'm gonna grab the book that got me back into romance. What I will say is this is an omnibus for 3 books. And it was like the series as a whole, but I'm going to talk about these ones because I do have the physical books or the physical omnibus. Now, one thing I will say is that I don't mind people on the cover. I do think that certain covers with people on them can be kind of cheesy. It's not something I mind or not something I'm going to get upset about. Sometimes it makes me giggle like this. But this is the Gods of the Duat trilogy by Alyssa Thorne. I read this through Kindle Unlimited, which is kind of how I started getting into dark romance. And this one kind of is like that fine line, that kind of it's on the blurred line between light and dark romance. And honestly, the 3 books are Set, Anubis, and Thoth. It's Set, Thoth, and Anubis for the order. And for these ones, you don't have to read these ones in order. And then this is part of the Gods universe. So it follows, it's based in the same world as the Court of the Underworld series. So it's part of the full series of the Gods universe. And just because Alyssa Thorne has quite a few books out for like different universes, and she kind of not lumps them together, but she collects them together as like the God's universe and then the Fae universe. So it's that kind of thing. And the God's universe, so Court of the Underworld, and this, I read this. I think I started reading this, and then I went to the Court of the Underworld series. So this is what started getting me back into, or getting me into romance again, and getting me into dark romance. So yeah, in this you just follow. Okay. Let me read you the description. Hades and his court might have come out to the world, but the gods in Egypt just want to be left alone. The gods are going to have to get over their millennia-old grudges and come together because a bigger problem is brewing. Anubis has gone missing, and the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, is starting to crumble without him. If Set and Thoth don't work together to find their lost nephew and restore him to the throne, the dead will be released back out into the world. Luckily, the god of fate is sending them three clever human females to help them figure it out. So it's kind of like a little bit cheesy where it's like, of course they need human women to help them out, which like I'm not mad about. Like, these are probably three of my favorite Egyptian gods, so it's like I wouldn't be mad. So there's that. And then the next, I have a good stack of books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I don't think I've used 2 books for one prompt yet. Well, I've kind of used 3 in one, but with the omnibus, but I'm counting it as one. An author you trust to write a good romance. Alyssa Thorne, Emily McIntyre, 3 Lives of Natasha Lester, let's see. I have to think about this one. Like, the thing is honestly, all of these authors I would trust to write a good romance. Or at least a romance that I would tolerate. So I'm going to go with that. Any of the authors that I mentioned in this video are ones that I would trust to write a good romance, or at the very least a romance that I could tolerate. So I was going to use that one. Shit. Okay, since it's a bonus round, I am going to repeat. Your favorite spicy romance book. Do I have any others? I don't think I have any other spicy romance books on my thing. Well, okay, so I was gonna repeat and say this one, because this one is spicy. I think I'll stick with that just because, like, there is the Never After novels. I could go with Hexed. I don't know if I would consider those my favorite. That's the thing. So, Gods of the Duat by Alyssa Thorne. So, and also Court of the Underworld too. Okay, the next and last prompt is create your own prompt, or feel free to use mine. And mine is top 3 romance books. Feel free to repeat with this one if you decide to use mine. This is in no particular order. I'm just going based off of here. And I'm not going to show them again just because I don't feel like shuffling around. For Whom the Bell Tolls, Heaven Official's Blessing. What is this one? Okay, this one was Magic Giant Ruth, Remarried Empress. Okay, so For Whom the Bell Tolls, Heaven Official's Blessing, and The 3 Lives of Alex St. Pierre. So those are my top 3 in no particular order. And then, yeah, that's the last prompt, the last bonus round. So let me know, again, if you want to do this, do it in your own comment, do it in a video, in your own post. I'd love to know what your answers are. And again, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video.